the ego is unconscious. Okay? Anxiety is going to take you right to your ego, and we are all working on consciously manifesting our lives. So if we get stuck here, we can't consciously manifest our lives. Okay? Therapy usually helps people go from unconscious to conscious, being aware of what's going on in their ego. And excessive use of ego defense mechanisms cause pain to people, and they prevent our growth. So we have this whole issue with anxiety in our ego, and we have this whole issue with anxiety in our body. And one of the things that causes too much anxiety is stress. Stress can be about loss or change. It can be positive or negative. It can be real or imagined. Imagined stress has the same physical toll on our body that real stress does. So if I'm getting a biopsy and I don't know the results of it, but I'm afraid and I think I might have cancer, that will cause my body as much stress as if the biopsy were positive. Okay, so now you get into kind of science of mind kind of things as we talk about our beliefs. And it's subjective. What might be stressful to you might not be stressful to me at all. Okay. Now, here's what happens. In our brains, and we're going to talk, there's more than stress. There's more than stress that causes this, but we're just going to look. There's several places. There are two big places in our brain, our amygdala and our hypothalamus. Our hypothalamus controls our blood pressure and our pulse, okay, our body temperature, all that stuff. So when people get anxious and their pulse goes up, okay, it's the result of some adrenaline or norepinephrine on our hypothalamus. So an amygdala is where we get meaning. So we secrete a chemical from our brain that goes to our pituitary gland. There's a whole little pattern here now. It goes to our pituitary gland. It's about the size of, it's small. It's a little bit bigger than a pea. I was going to say a pea, but that's really right. That secretes a hormone called ACTH in our body. That goes into our bloodstream. Now we have these hormones in our bloodstream to help us deal with stress, to help us deal with danger. Then that goes to our adrenal glands right back here above our kidneys. Okay, adrenal glands, guess what they produce? Adrenaline, epinephrine and norepinephrine. Then it creates cortisol. Now what do we know about cortisol? Cortisol we're learning a lot more about. It's really high under stress. And cortisol protects your body under chronic stress. So you tend to gain weight around the middle part of your body because it's there to protect your organs. All right, so now we have weight gain and we have cortisol. Over here we have some glucose. Cortisol increases our blood sugar. So our blood sugar goes higher, our metabolism goes higher, and glucose feeds our brain and it feeds our muscles. So now we've got a lot of energy pumping into our brain and our muscles. On this side, now that was a chemical response. These are electrochemical impulses. So these are little electrical charges from our brain stem and down our spinal cord. And they also go to the adrenal glands. So we get big hits of adrenaline. Now years ago, adrenaline, this whole response is meant to save our lives. Okay? And it did. It did for many, many years. If you're taking that wagon train through the river and the wheel breaks, you get all these muscles, adrenaline hit, you breathe, you take it in, you hold the wagon up so your wife and your children live. And then you sleep. And when you sleep, it tells your body the stress is over, shut down the adrenaline. What we have now is we have what I call a chronic adrenaline leakage. We have so much stress, Or we have a bad gene and we get this leakage of adrenaline. So our body keeps acting like something bad's gonna happen. Okay, we start thinking and worrying something bad must be gonna happen. Because we're getting all these physical responses. And we don't usually go sleep then immediately for hours after a traffic jam. Do you see, we don't have any ways sometimes to let that off in our life. So when people get a generalized anxiety disorder, this is really common. About 1 in 40 people have some kind of an anxiety disorder. And the truth is those numbers are old, and I think they're way too low now. We have anxiety and worry about things out of our control. Takes you right back to the serenity prayer, doesn't it? Right back to this and figure out what's in your control. We have to figure out a way to let go of the other things. Worry is voluntary. Only humans have worry. Worry is the fear that we've manifested. It's something we've created. It's not real. It's not happening now. And the very fact that you worry about something is solid evidence it's not happening. Isn't that good? Oh, that's not happening, is it? Okay. We use worry sometimes as a way to avoid change. If we worry about things, we get a little sense of control over them because we're thinking about them all the time, so we don't change. See, if we took a worry and went right away, oh, I better change this. We use worry sometimes as a way to avoid that we're powerless over something. We don't like that feeling. That increases our anxiety. So we worry about it, we feel like we're not powerless, even though we are. We sometimes use worry. Mothers are kind of famous for this. We use worry as a way to show love. I was so worried about you. Do you see? We do that with people. Oh, I was worried about him. He's in the hospital. I'm worried about him. But if you think about that, isn't that bad energy to be pushing at another person? Wouldn't we want to say, oh, I'm praying for your strength and your healing and your body? And do you see, rather than I'm worried about you? I can see you have a difficult time in your path, but I'm holding on and I'm sending you good energy that you make the right choices, rather than I'm worried about you. Okay. And sometimes people use worry as a protection against future disappointment. I'm worried my son won't come for Thanksgiving, and I think I'm preventing myself from being disappointed if it doesn't come. You're not. You're not. Doesn't really work. It's an illusion. So worry is probably one of the biggest illusions we have. Anxiety is a huge illusion. It's not real. Okay. Now that said, it's destructive most of the time and unnecessary, unless it's that little mild anxiety and you use it for good. But anything more than that doesn't really help us. And as Gavin de Becker says, our imaginations can be fertile soil, spirit of mind, in which worry and anxiety grow from seeds to weeds. If you plant worry, you're going to get anxiety. Okay? And only that which is absent can be imagined. So if it's not happening, and my mother used to use it as a magical amulet to ward off danger. You know what my mother's line was? Well, if you worry about it, it won't happen.
Oh.
Do you see? So she'd worry about things so they wouldn't happen. Okay. She had bad things happen in her life that she never once thought of. So I don't think it worked. Okay. So why do some people have more anxiety than others?